Last night we flew in from Seoul, Korea to Phnom Penh, Cambodia. We arrived about midnight. Though the flight took less than 6 hours, in terms of culture and climate, it seemed as though we had entered another world and time. As Hessie and I walked into our nice but sweltering room, I could almost imagine that we were characters in a Graham Greene novel from a different era. Today we're up early after a reasonably good night's sleep. Our plan is to simply make our way around the Cambodian capital and see what we can see before heading up to Angkor Wat and Siem Reap tomorrow. Our sumptuous breakfast today at the Imperial Garden included a big bowl of pho soup plus a variety of traditional and Western style offerings. We'll be leaving in a few minutes. But first we want to take a few pictures of Flat Ada, created by my granddaughter back in Pennsylvania and on assignment as a Goodwill ambassador representing her elementary school class. While Hessie takes a picture of the Tonle Sap River waterfront, I'm rushing down to jump on one of the ferries even though I don't know where it's going. I'll find out later that it's a shuttle to one of the nearby islands. Anyway, I'm on board ready to pay the fare, which I think is the equivalent of about a quarter, when from the embankment Hessie makes it clear that no way is she joining me. What do? Easy. I make a quick calculation and jump off the ferry just before it leaves. Impulsiveness aside, it's quite clear that risking domestic tranquility for a ferry ride to who knows where is a pretty dumb idea, especially given the fact that we only have one day in Phnom Penh.
We go all the time.
Our starting point on our self-guided tour was the hotel. We walked a couple of blocks along Sith Owath Way and then turned away from the water onto Sihanouk Boulevard.
We should go over there.
All we know for sure is that we're in the central part of the city where there are many temples, or wats as they're called, governmental and official buildings. Though this was supposed to be a walking tour, I've convinced Hessie, somewhat reluctantly on her part, that we ought to take a tuk-tuk ride because it's a better way to quickly get a sense of the city. Besides, it's already hot out there on the sidewalk and much cooler moving along inside this carriage. We're noticing already that there are a lot of traditional style buildings. Some in fact are quite old. Others are not, but important or significant nonetheless. For now, all I can tell you is that many of these buildings in the central area are strikingly attractive. As we learn more, so will you. Want to get out for a picture? At this pretty place along the water, we couldn't resist the temptation to ask our driver to stop for a moment so we could take a few pictures. And now we're off again and passing through the so-called foreigners' quarter. Over the years, Western business people, expats, and reporters have tended to congregate here. Richard, the fellow who met us at the airport and took us into the hotel last night, said that the FCC, the Foreign Correspondents Club, was a good place to have dinner. What you're getting now is a fast, choppy ride around town, which basically is what we had because we asked the driver for a sense of the place, rather than to stop at any specific sites or attractions. For that, you can fast forward. Otherwise, stay with us in the back of this carriage, sometimes shifting or leaning for a better shot or view, sometimes changing direction or backtracking through central Phnom Penh. Through the editing process, though some of the cuts may seem rough, we've created a bit more continuity than there actually was. We've ended our first tuk-tuk ride. As requested, our driver has dropped us off in the foreigners' quarter back on Sisowath Quay. Hessie has ordered us soft drinks. We're going to sit at an outside table, watch the traffic go by, and relax a little while we plan our next move. A couple of tuk-tuk drivers have pulled up and have offered us rides, which in each case we've declined. They're hanging around anyway, I guess hoping we'll change our minds. Refreshment break over, Hessie suggests that we walk over to the central market. It looks to be a hot walk of about a half a mile. What the heck, I'll go. Fortunately, though, we come upon the Wat Unalam Buddhist temple almost immediately. Actually, Wat means temple in Cambodian. Unalam means eyebrow hair. This Wat was built in 1443 as a sanctuary for an eyebrow hair of the Buddha. Before the Khmer Rouge took over in 1975, over 500 monks and 30,000 books were housed on these grounds. During the Khmer Rouge's reign of terror, that ended in 1993, many monks were killed and many buildings and books were destroyed. Since then, there has been much restoration, and today the highest-ranking Buddhist monk in Cambodia is domiciled here. We've walked up the steps and gone inside the temple. After we've had a look around, a smiling young man came up to us and asked for a small donation. Hessie was happy to oblige. We stayed a while longer, but then it started to feel very close in the temple, so we stepped outside to feel some breeze and see more of the grounds. The population of Cambodia is estimated to be over 90% Buddhist. With the exception of the Khmer Rouge communist regime, Buddhism has been the state religion of Cambodia since the 13th century. According to a 2007 census, the population of the Phnom Penh metropolitan area is a little bit over 2 million. Of Cambodia itself, about 14.5 million. Though there are many ethnic groups in Cambodia, there are three main ones. The Khmers, descendants of the people who founded Cambodia, make up about 60% of the population. The Vietnamese about 20%, and the Chinese another 15%. We're now leaving the beautiful Wat Unalam and have gone outside to engage another tuk-tuk so we can scoot over to the central market. Central Market was built in 1937. An Art Deco-style rotunda sits over four symmetrical wings. Everything from clothing to inexpensive and expensive jewelry to housewares to tools and electronics is sold. It covers a very large area and is hot, particularly underneath the rotunda, which is almost totally enclosed. After we had our fill of looking, we didn't buy anything. We decided to head back toward the riverfront on foot and to find a place to have lunch. Coming up is a poster warning against having sex with children. We saw a number of posters like this one. Apparently it's a problem and the government's trying to do something about it. Well, this walk was a lot longer than it looks here and a lot hotter. And eventually we got back to Sislaweth Quay. We selected a restaurant not far from the place where we had our drink in the morning. And once again sat outside at a table by the sidewalk. We heard customers speaking English. They sounded like they were from Britain or Australia, perhaps New Zealand. We were curious, but not so curious that we wanted to strike up a conversation, especially since lunch was very good, some chicken and rice dishes I recall. And we were so busy casually enjoying it that we weren't even taking pictures, which is why you're looking at the Royal Crematorium, built for the funeral of King Sihanouk, who died at 89 in the year 2012. We came upon this remarkable modern complex reflecting traditional Khmer-style architecture after lunch, when we began walking back in what we hoped was the general direction of our hotel. We've left the Royal Crematorium and are heading in what we think is the direction of the Visitors Gate to the Royal Palace. Once again, we find ourselves across the street from the memorial to King Sihanouk. Here we are at the entrance to the Royal Palace and the Silver Pagoda. And for a small fee we'll be admitted, but no pictures, no touching, and worst of all, no air conditioning. Sorry everybody, but we're going back to the hotel. Hessie wants to walk us not very far. But this tuk-tuk driver's been hounding us since the Royal Crematorium, so here we go. And more or less just like that, we're back to our hotel, where Hessie and I will enjoy the view of Riverfront Park just outside our room as we nurse some of the vodka that we brought in from South Korea. We decided that we'd like to try some Cambodian food tonight, preferably a local place within walking distance. Later, when we go down to the desk and ask, one of the suggestions we get is Master Suki Soup. We decided to try this restaurant, and luckily, we've made a good choice. The owners and staff are welcoming and helpful, and the food is very good. All in all, we've had a fine day in Phnom Penh. However, if your travel plans include this historic, evolving capital, I suggest that you plan to spend more than a single day. Certainly, we would have liked to have seen more of the Presidential Palace, the Silver Pagoda, and also the city's residential districts. However, I have no regrets that we chose not to visit the Genocide Museum, where many thousands of catalogued human skulls are on ghoulish display as testimony to the infamy of the Khmer Rouge reign of terror not so very long ago.